I'm good if you're good. All right.
We're good.
All right, thanks. Is Daniel online?
Yeah, he's not. Yes, I got a. He's not here yet.
Okay, do we want to wait?
He said he was gonna join Diego.
Yeah, I got it up. He hasn't joined yet, but I have it up.
Oh, he said he's driving.
Yeah, I got it up since he joined.
Yeah, we'll watch the
around.
video.
But it's up.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started then. Thank you so much. I know we've all met, and I didn't bring a presentation today. Part of that is because the presentation or the highlights of the Division of Student Affairs is actually all the portfolio presentations that you've been seeing today. And I knew that the teams were going to do their highlights, and so that's what's most important, the programs and services that we provide. Out of the Vice President's office, really, what we're doing is, most of it, as you can see by the financial breakdown, is salary and wages and benefits. And then we do have money in there for travel, for staff development, and for staff engagement opportunities. That all comes directly out of the Vice President's office, and then we have graduate assistants and student workers. But it's important, the work that we do, but it's not a highlight slide, and so I figured you had seen enough of those today. But before I get started, really, and I know I heard some folks saying thank you, and I wanted to say thank you for the work that you all do. I know this takes a lot of time, and I'm very appreciative of your time and your effort to go through all of the presentations, the readings, the presentations, and give good feedback and good questions. And I know that there were some folks here earlier who were part of a protest, and they called into the question the formation of this committee, but I want to tell you that wasn't done lightly. It also was done very transparently. We were very open in the process we were going to take and how we did it. All students on campus were invited to serve on university committees. Actually, that's how the three that are here got here, that were student appointees. And so there was no hiding the process that we were going to take or the philosophy that we used to do that when the legislation that was in place doesn't cover the atypical situation that we found ourselves in. So for all the students serving, I just want to reiterate again that your role is important, the work you do is important, and I'm very appreciative of it. And don't worry about any naysayers, we'll take care of that administratively. I'm open to their concerns for certain. But the process that we went through, just to be very clear, no one's just asked a simple question, how did we do it? All we saw was the website and then the protest. So don't let that delegitimize the work that you're doing, the effort that you're putting in. You're all students, your voice is important, and you're here to support the SFAC process, so I appreciate that. We actually started on this together. So my request from a budget standpoint is a little bit less than what we asked for last year. I shared with you all in our second meeting, I believe, with SFAC that we did a trim across the division. My office was not exempt from that, nor should it be. And so you've done the reallocation of funds so that we can hire some strategic hires, which has been very important. I had shared with you then, we have departments that are program and service offices, but have no program and service budget. You may have seen that on some of the earlier presentations. But that's the process myself and my executive leadership team are going through right now, which is to right-size the DSA from a budgeting standpoint so that we do fit within our budgets and you don't see the large one-time requests that you're seeing now, which I had shared. I briefed all the non-DSA departments before they came in that we had almost 3 times one-time requests than what we had in the budget, so they were aware of that because I felt we needed to be honest on that level, and just shared that with 8 years of no fee increase and the budgeting model that we have, which is one-time fees, funding recurring expenses or programs or services, is a model that we need to get away from, and so we're working on that. What we'll be working on in the Division of Student Affairs is we've already, with the request or the approval we got from this group earlier, we've already posted the position in DART, so we're excited about that. So we're able to put 2 new positions inside of DART this fiscal year, which is very important. We've posted the position in CSI, which will be supporting a new USO for evening weekend programs and Pride event planning in partnership with athletics, and the support for Sugar Land and Katy. So we're excited and again appreciative for that. We're going to continue our work in Clifton Strength. I had shared this last year actually, that it was an initiative. We're continuing on that road. We did in January stand up our first set of trained coaches. We'll be doing it again in December. But since then, we've had a lot of work on the ground, standing up the program, building the infrastructure, presenting to the President's Cabinet, presenting to Dean's Council, presenting to the Associate Deans. I've presented with the Provost and talked with her one-on-one, and have I'll say, early support for building this into the orientation program. We owe her a full proposal, which is about 90% complete, but our goal is to build it into orientation so that every entering student at the University of Houston has gone through the strengths assessment. And what was nice about that is the team has already built out workshops, at least a dozen of them, that students can continue and engage with that program throughout their time at the University of Houston. So we're going to continue and remain focused on that. And of course, the position that was approved and has been posted is really aimed at increasing campus life vibrancy and student engagement on evenings and weekends. We know that's a direct correlation to student retention and student success. So we're going to continue those efforts in alignment with the university's strategic plan and our unapologetic North Star of a top 50 institution. And as I'd share with you, our goal once we get through this year, what I really want to see is that we can come back to SFAC where one-time requests can really be for bold and innovative ideas where we can tile it and test programs out instead of it being for recurring funding and programs and services. Again, they're all important. I know you've reviewed them. I don't envy the role that you're in, that you have to make those decisions. But if we can get the budgeting model right, then we can get one-times to where they need to be, which should be a little more exciting from the allocation standpoint, but it also, more importantly, gives us the opportunity to test new initiatives as we switch generations of undergraduates to how do we continue to engage our students, keep them engaged, and work towards being a worthy resource for their success. That's the end of my presentation, but I'm certainly open to questions.
No questions. I have a question. So specifically when it comes to the USO, because that's something that got brought up, especially with when CSI came in, and we were talking to them about it.
Yeah.
When it comes to weekend programming, you guys found it to be more privy to create a separate USO rather than add it on to an existing USO like SPB. Even though it falls under the CSI wing, it seems pertinent that there is a FTE, and then you also want to allocate budget for, I think, the possibility of 3 student members to be a part of that USO. Can you walk me through how that decision came to pass?
Yeah, that's a good question. The thought on the USO was that when we look at models where student programming is more active on the weekends, the majority of it is done by RSOs, or registered student organizations. So the thought was that we would have a USO, which sounds funny, it's a lot of acronyms, USOs focused on RSOs, working with student organizations to get their programming increased. So we'll still increase our programming and efforts from a professional standpoint, but the goal is really to stand up an organization who is focused solely on even weekends and partnerships with RSOs. So the budget right now for that is coming through Student Center. The FTE is coming through the funding that was approved earlier this year.
Yeah, I guess as you guys continue to grow, I assume that the USO is going to start asking for programming funding because that's the emphasis they all been putting on.
Well, it's a good question, and I don't anticipate it being a high-level ask, if any, because remember the goal is to get RSOs to sponsor the events and then to be a constant partner with our offices on how to increase our programming on the weekends.
Okay.
So we don't know that they're going to need to be an actual programmatic body. From a service standpoint, it's more about building those relationships and then getting out there and keeping it constant. I'm not saying they'll never ask for money. I don't know what will happen in the future. But the goal really is for them to be peer-to-peer, to increase those interactions, and then to constantly work. The professional person would be working with our colleagues to make sure we're putting programs out there. I think even before that, and we've talked about it internally, is meeting with students from I'll say focus group, but I don't know what format it's going to take, but asking the students what would be important to you on the weekends, right? We know students are here for Saturday football games, but how can we increase beyond that, and how can we get them here? So that'll be a lot of work for the full-time staff.
So basically what the new USO will do, it will be just like a council for the RSOs that want to do basically programming during the weekend. Like they will collaborate together and then create their own programs.
But actually, we want the RSOs to do the programming. Yeah, the USO would work with them to build those relationships. And one of the challenges we find, and this sounds odd, but a lot of times our students or student organizations don't do something because they don't know if they're allowed to do it. If that makes sense, right? It's sort of, I didn't do it because I didn't think I could, or no one's ever done it before. The goal of the USO is to really get out there and be a focal group, right? To to help guide the professionals on what do students want, what do they need, what would be a draw, what wouldn't. But then to get with other RSOs and get them to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. You probably want to do something you haven't done. What is it? We want to encourage it. We want to get it out there. We want to market it peer-to-peer.
So, but they wouldn't be like a funding USO. It would just be
Right.
like, it would still have to go through either like AFB or CCA if they wanted to use university funds.
That's correct. Yeah, if they wanted funds, they would do the funding of any other USOs. But we're not standing them up with that large of a budget.
Okay, got it.
Well, I guess in like years like this where we're looking at a reduction of the budget across the board, I guess it's a job for us as a committee to justify these positions and pick which programs we want to fund, and like looking at the cuts to certain programming, especially the ones that student needs. So that's something we'll get through.
I think I honestly, from my perspective, I think it's a good idea, because as you mentioned, like whenever we're looking at the mission of student affairs at their vision, which is what we're working with, it's trying to make U of H, like the student life, a lot more lively. Like if you look at the student life during the weekend, it's kind of very peaceful, it's very quiet. Like you can just walk around, you won't see an event going on. You go to the student center, there's like maybe 2 events, they're like meetings. So I think like maybe having that additional support, even if it's just like staff and student leaders, like helping coordinate and helping give resources, I think that will be extremely good.
Sure, thank you.
I have another question. There's 2 in relation to this, but just to get them out there, and wondering what the division's thoughts are. So with the amount of movements that are happening on campus, and not just in relation to like this protest that's happening, but there are a lot of movements that, especially from an administrative perspective, you're looking at, wanting to preserve, I guess, the identity of UH and support those students, along with, I guess, the charge that comes from, not just on an administrative level, but on a governance level. So do you guys happen to find yourself more in like vocal support of things like the hunger strike that's coming through these students, or do you think as a division you end up in a position where you're more at odds of certain student movements?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one, I think what's important is that you see on the institution level is that we've always been very open for campus protests and expression, free expression. And that's not changed. Even in light of the current bill, we adapted a few parts of it. We held on a few parts. And if you saw when it came out of Austin, they updated their expression policy, got enjoined immediately, right? So now it's going through the court, which is fine. That's what you do with new legislation. And when it washes out, then we'll adopt the parts that get held. But what we've told the groups that when they do it, we're not your adversary and we're not your ally. That's not the role of the institution. The role of the institution is to make sure that we have clear expression policies, that the organizations are aware of those policies so they can host their events and not get them shut down or interrupted. And then just to make sure they have the space that their voice can be heard. And so, like I said, the group that's protesting this has never asked for a meeting. They never even asked for clarification. SJP, on the other hand, since I've been here, I've met with them 4 times. The last one being October 7th of this year. And we went over the speech and expression policy because I told them there have been some updates. Very cordial. Got a new advisor that's here. So we had a good meeting. She thanked us we called the meeting, called a proactive meeting, and just told the students, you're one of our more active groups. I want to make sure you're aware of the changes. They were pretty small changes, but they still needed to know about them. But it's the same thing. Our role is just to have a place for you to do what you want to do and let your voice be heard. But the university doesn't take a position, and we're not adversarial either. It's just a place, and we have a policy, and we make sure that they're aware of the policy.
Okay, yeah. As a divisional liaison, do you guys find yourself in a position where you'd want to give, not as like a stance, but you'd want to give students that audience with I guess the bodies that involve divestment, especially because of a continual hunger strike that's starting to gain national coverage. So I think that becomes a stressor from a university standpoint in regards to the optics. So is that something that you're finding your division to have to work through?
No. To be honest with you, I've communicated. It's interesting when I watch the group, one of the comments they make publicly is we've not responded to them. That's not a true statement. We've responded. The legal counsel and I have met with that group specifically on 2 occasions and addressed their demands. Their demands haven't changed. We've provided them a resource sheet. Our stance hasn't changed. So we told them if they had new demands or new things to consider, we would have a meeting. But in short, since their demands are identical and we've already met, and they already have our response, and they have my response in writing from last week, we have responded. We've responded very clearly and very directly. So the university's position is not changing. We've put that in writing. We're not considering their demands. We've told them why we're not considering it. It's to keep us in alignment with state law. It's not a dismissal of student voice, but we're not in a position where we can meet their demands. We have been very clear about that. So the students engaging in their protests is their right, and we support their right. We've actually reached out and made sure they had resources, because we want to make sure from a student perspective they're taking care of themselves. But I have no authority to step in and interfere with the actions that they're taking, nor would I.
Okay, and then one last question, this could be pretty short.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the efforts that the institution has made towards student protections, especially with all these state policy changes in regards to like ICE and their compliance within like a public university setting?
Yet nothing on campus has changed from any of those perspectives. Not one policy has changed. We follow, again, as a state agency, we're going to be fully aligned with state statute. We are, have been, and continue to be.
All right, and are there any educationals in place for students that could find themselves uneasy or within those like stressful environments in regards to certain governments entering on campus?
What was the
Sorry, do you guys find yourself, so like different departments here on campus do informationals, especially like with international students or students that find themselves at like in a specific situations regarding legality?
Sure.
Do you find your division doing a lot of informational sessions in order to like put students at ease, especially considering that the university is in compliance with the state?
I don't know that we've done educational sessions. If a student reaches out, we have resources that we will refer them to,
Okay,
but not that I'm aware of.
I appreciate that. There you go.
I mean, regarding that, it's like, well, regarding to what Rudy was saying, a university, I feel like even if they theoretically like comply with their demands, it would just bring on like a targeted lawsuit by the DOJ. That would not end up good for anyone.
Pause this real quick. I want to make sure, while we have Dr. Kittle, if there's any questions regarding SFAC as far as decision when it comes to budget, and then we have another session with Dr. Kittle right after this if you all want to talk about more things. But right now, want to make sure we're using our time wisely. Is there other questions regarding the SFAC process, budget, or anything that you all want to address right now that we can jump into the closed
I was just
conversation?
asking because it was the open session, so I'm just making sure that I'm able to get this out there.
Can we ask you questions regarding other like funded units? Like for example, if like debate did not answer one of the questions completely, can I ask you?
So how it's going to work is any questions that you all have, we're going to meet after this too, and then we're going to compile a list. You all will send those to me, and then I will forward it out to them because we will need that before deliberation. So we'll do all that. Any questions? I think with Dr. Kittle, if there's anything student affairs related, it's probably best for Dr. Kittle as anything student affairs. But the folks that are not within student affairs, let's draft them and then get them to the appropriate folks. But anything student affairs related, please ask Dr. Kittle to kind of reiterate what priority is important to him as the leader of the division.
I think we might be good for like the specific divisional things, and then we can enter the closed session wrap up.
Okay.
So that should be good.
Thank you.